Welcome to today's episode of 10 Minutes with Sam, and this is your host, Akshat Singh. Um, I am honored to have our guest today, Dr. Thomas Abraham. Dr. Thomas Abraham has been a leader of the People of Indian Origin movement for the last 4 decades, probably the only person in the world to hold this position for such a long time. He founded the Federation of Indian Association and the Global Organization for the People of Indian Origin. Sir has also been awarded the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman by the President of India for his brilliant contributions. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you, Akshat. It's wonderful to be here and talking to your audience from South Asian Monitor. That's wonderful.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you already know about the format of this show. We will cover 4 questions in 10 minutes, so let me just shoot the first question. Sir, you made your name as a community leader and as an organizer when you founded the Global Organization for People of Indian Origin. Since then, since 1989, the organization has received a pan-global status. Could you tell us a little about how you came to spearhead the movement and how it then developed?
Well, I came to United States to study for my master's and PhD at Columbia University in School of Engineering. After I completed a bachelor's degree at Malawiya National Institute of Technology. So I was more in the scholarly side, doing my research and studies. But it so happened that the Indian immigrants were started in coming to United States in large numbers in the late 60s and 70s, and New York was the destination because the Air India 747 used to have a flight from New Delhi to and Bombay to New York. So people have started coming, and it so happened that the Columbia University had an India club, basically catering to the needs of the students and the Indian migrants, because we were in the center of the city. So we used to have this Bollywood films where people used to flock to see the films on a weekend because there was nothing else for them to connect back to India. And then by 1980, we started the National Federation of Indian Association, which was more of a legislative body. So I came into the leadership role. And when we saw the human rights violation of our people around the world in the 80s, even in New York, when in the New York area, we had this dogbuster issue. So we called up a meeting of all Indian community, the diaspora worldwide. And that is how the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin started. And it's already 31 years we are functioning and doing a lot of work all around the world.
Absolutely. And so honestly, the work has been more than impressive, if I am honest. Sir, as you said, the organization was founded with the initial premise of furthering human rights for people of Indian origin. And since then, it has encompassed people of all South Asian origin too. How far do you think people of Indian origin and people from the South Asian community have come since the time you founded the organization?
Well, that was a global network, but before itself, that the network, the organization have really networked the people. I'm talking about 80s onwards. But when GOPIO was started, it was basically human rights violation of people of Indian origin. It was in our people were outside the political mainstream in many of the countries. I'm talking about Trinidad, Guyana, Fiji. There was a coup, and then South Africa, apartheid was still going on. And then even in New York, we didn't have much representation. As I remember, 1980, when we had the National Convention of Indians in New York, there were only 2 city council members whom we could invite to give it to be participating in a panel discussion on political involvement. But then we did a lot of work in terms of bringing the community to the mainstream politics, and we achieved a great deal in that respect. In Trinidad, became the Indian Prime Minister. In also in Guyana, in Fiji, Indian Prime Minister came. And then in the USA, that was the biggest achievement. And also it happened in UK. But in USA, from 2 city council members in 1980, by, I mean, of course, our first congressman came as early as 1956, Philip Singh Song. But then it came Bobby Jindal, then two governors, Bobby Jindal and
Absolutely.
Nikki Haley,
Uh-huh.
and then four congressmen, then one senator. And this is the highest prize we got, recognition Kamala Harris as the
Absolutely.
vice president of the United States. That's a great
Absolutely.
achievement.
Absolutely, sir. And political representation, of course, is just one flip side of how the community is perceived and how the community is, gets social and political rights in that sense. So you mentioned the election of Kamala Harris, and of course, it is a landmark moment in the history of the United States. Let's come back to 2021. What do you think are some of the pertinent issues that affect the South Asian community right now, and how do you think the Biden-Harris administration will have an influence in them?
Well, one thing is that the Indian American community is the highest earning group in the United States. There are other issues, especially there is in some pockets of the community are not up to that level of high income group. So we need to work with them, especially we have several social organizations, including one which I was involved in founding, South Asian Council for Social Services, which serve all the South Asians. So we need to help those communities which need. Now with the new Biden Harris administration coming in, there are a lot of opportunities, even in this in the last few years when Black Lives Matter was a big movement here. Our community did not participate much in that. I think we need to work with other communities, not only the Black and the Hispanic community, we also need to work with other Asian communities.
Absolutely, sir. And I feel, and I think you would agree that the Indian community benefited from this myth of the ideal immigrant that was spoken about when you talked about Asian Americans or Indian Americans. However, unfortunately, several other minority groups, such as people of Latin origin or African Americans, did not get the same advantage, and therefore cross community cooperation is required in order to uplift other communities as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, bringing the last question, sir, we see that there is an increasing involvement of Indian Americans in all spheres of life, be it entertainment, be it academia, be it entrepreneurship. What do you think are some of the principal markers that affect and that kind of represent the participation of the South Asian community in these fields?
Well, when people look at the South Asian community and particularly Indian American community, first they look, the American society look where it is influencing. First of all, in healthcare, we are about 15% of the total medical doctors in the United States. That's a large number, and the largest ethnic community within the healthcare community is Indians. Especially, I'm talking about physicians. Now look at 70s, mid 70s and 80s when Indians came, especially from Uganda and other places, invested money in hotel motel industry. Now we own about 50% of the total hotel motel in properties. So that's a big influence. Third one comes in Silicon Valley after when this the year 2000 issue came up in terms of the changing going towards the millennium. A large number of Indians came in the IT industry, and many of them stayed back. And then, especially in the Silicon Valley, that is the biggest influence came, especially in new technology area. Indian Americans have done extremely well. And the biggest impact of all is in science and technology, where Indian Americans have done extremely well, engineering, technology, where we hold top positions in major companies and in universities, in national laboratories and institutions like NASA.
Absolutely, sir. And here's to hoping and here's to working towards a dream that people and leaders such as yourself started. This brings us to the end of 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us for the interview today. And we would certainly love to speak with you sometime soon.